Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team Podcast. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday evening. I'm your host, Steven Negishi, and we couldn't do the show last week, obviously, because I was on vacation. I am back again, and happy to be back again with Ken Fang from Awful Announcing. Ken, looking at the week 2 of the NFL and college football, and we certainly got a lot to talk about it. Neither of our teams, me being a Bears fan and you being a Browns fan, and certainly we were thoroughly embarrassed with our team's performance today. I am still kind of shell shocked by the Bears' pathetic performance tonight. So, listen, I'll give you the honors talk or vent about the Browns' loss to the Baltimore Ravens today, 41-17.
Well, this was really horrendous.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco honored by his former Baltimore team before the game. But then
this was also the Baltimore's 30-year anniversary.
30th anniversary of them raiding Cleveland and taking my team away, and then subsequently winning 2 Super Bowls. I'm still not bitter about this. I'm still angry about that. After Baltimore knows what it was like to lose a team from the Colts to the Indianapolis. Anyway, the Ravens honored Joe Flacco. Of course, Flacco has had success with both teams, taking Cleveland to the playoffs a couple of seasons ago. But he looked old today. He had made bad decisions. He threw a couple of picks. Baltimore was all over him. Myles Garrett called this an embarrassment. Of course, Myles Garrett, who originally was holding out, and then during the offseason, the great rusher who could have signed anywhere or demanded a trade, but then decided to come back and sign a new contract. Yet he had a couple of sacks today against Lamar Jackson. However, it wasn't enough. They lost 41-19, I believe it was. It was just really not a good performance by the Browns. They were just, face it, the Ravens had a game won last Sunday night against the Buffalo Bills, a game which they should have won. They scored 40 points. They were up 15 points against the Buffalo Bills and then still lost the game inexplicably. So you know that when whoever they were going to meet in the week 2, the following week, they were going to be ready. And they scored another 40-burger this time, and this time didn't blow it. So, but again, the Browns weak offensively, just sputtering on defense, sputtering on offense. Myles Garrett can't do everything. Shedeur Sanders wasn't active today, so even if they wanted to bring him in, the Browns could not. So I was just thoroughly disappointed by the effort today. It's a division rival. They lost to Cincinnati last week, Steven, a game they could have won easily. They did not.
Yes.
So now they enter 0-2 going into the season. Of course, it's very difficult for teams to get into the playoffs down 0-2. It's been done before, but this Browns team doesn't show any sign of optimism for me. I felt, going into the season, the most they could win is at least the over-under for me is 4. They're right on target for that right now, Steven, even though they have a weaker schedule. But again, not very impressed, not seeing that anything that I can see that could give me any hope for this season right now. They were thoroughly beaten by a drum by Baltimore, which is in the upper echelon of the league. They have Baltimore has a former MVP in their quarterback in Lamar Jackson. So any look like it today. And, Joe Flacco, who of course was debated when he was at Baltimore whether he was elite. He's won a Super Bowl, and like we said, he's seen success with Cleveland 2 seasons ago, steering them to the playoffs. But he didn't look very, very competent today. He looked very old out there, even though he did have a couple touchdown passes. But still, overall, I'm not very impressed by this Cleveland team. And I'm right now, even though last week I came into the season looking eternally hopeful, because we had a chance to beat Cincinnati in our first game. We did not. The Browns didn't do it, and now they're 0-2, both to division rivals. It's going to be a very long season, Steven.
Yeah, there were reports that came out this morning about Shedeur Sanders, not wanting to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. My apologies there.
In the fifth round.
They were actually, and did not want to be drafted by, because he knew he was going to be stuck behind Lamar Jackson, and certainly, the hits keeps on coming, towards Shedeur Sanders, fair or not. What did you think of that story that came out from Adam Schefter this morning about Shedeur Sanders not wanting to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens?
It's a bizarre story. The timing couldn't be stranger. It's another distraction for the Browns, who are going to be full of distractions this season, I feel. I don't know if it's true or not. I know Adam Schefter is hooked up with many owners and many GMs. I don't know if he actually said this or not. I'm taking it with a grain of salt. I don't know, Stephen. I really don't know about this one. And again, I know Adam Schefter is pretty connected in there, but I don't know if this is true or not. I'm very skeptical of it. I don't even know if the Baltimore Ravens even wanted Shedeur Sanders based on their situation. I mean, I don't think they're a team that with John Harbaugh likes to have a certain control over things. And if they drafted Shedeur Sanders, he probably wouldn't have any control. Although, of course, Shedeur Sanders has a connection to his dad, who played for Baltimore in the early 21st century. But I'm a little skeptical of this story. I really don't think that. I hold my judgment on this one. I don't think it really is true, to be honest with you. But I reserve my judgment until I hear otherwise.
Now, obviously, he fell to the fifth round, and there were talks about the collusions and how the league was conspired against Shedeur Sanders because of his father and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if there's any sort of linkage to the whole collusion story here, but I don't know if this is indeed, let's just say, have a leg because of the collusion story. It certainly makes him look bad. And when you're a college player, you really don't have a position in to go and sign with any team that you like, because obviously with the drafts system that we have here in the United States and pretty much all sports outside of soccer. I do find that the timing of the story coming out of this, a few hours before the Cleveland game, sounds, fishy, and I don't know what story or who does this serve its purpose for. So, it will be interesting, what the backstory is, but. As long as Shedeur does not play, I don't know if this story has any significance to the Browns and the Browns fans like yourself. So let's move on to my Chicago Bears. They were completely obliterated by the Detroit Lions, 52-21. Ben Johnson's return to Detroit was just a simple, old-fashioned ass-kicking. Of an embarrassing fashion. I think people love Ben Johnson for his brashness and bravado. And unfortunately, the Lions, coming off a terrible loss to the Green Bay Packers in Micah Parsons' debut, took it out on the Chicago Bears and to Ben Johnson. And just from start, Cairo Santos kicked a field goal that was out of bounds, and it started at the 40. And from that point on, the Bears just never were in the game, unfortunately. But the only good thing that stood out from this one was, Caleb Williams at least drove the Bears and responded to the Lions' opening drive and scored a touchdown, which, unlike last year, the Bears were having so much problems offensively challenged, scoring the opening drive touchdowns. This is the second week in a row they did that. Last week they did that against the Minnesota Vikings. That was encouraging. Last week, as the game kind of went on, the Bears regressed offensively, and that allowed the Minnesota Vikings to get back into the game and lost the lead in the game in fourth quarter. Now, this one, unfortunately, from start to finish, they were never in this game, and that was really, really disheartening. The biggest problem, of course, was not Caleb Williams, unlike some Bears fans like to call him out or just want him seen gone or benched in favor of Tyson Bagent for whatever reasons. Williams was probably the least of the problems. The problems were, again, first of all, the number one reason was defense. They were just completely, torched by Jared Goff. Goff was, I think, had a near perfect passer rating. He completed over 80% of his passes, threw 334 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks. He was barely touched. There was one time I think Montez Sweat got him, but that sack was negated because of the penalties by both teams, illegal contact and illegal formations. That wiped off a sack. It didn't matter anyway because of the score and just how lopsided it was. Jalen Johnson, who came back from a groin injury, unfortunately re-aggravated his injuries, as did the linebacker TJ Edwards. They missed the opening game because of their injuries. They came back and they re-aggravated the injuries, and now they're probably going to be out for quite a while now. And it was really bad. Tyreek Stevenson, the guy who is known for that Washington Hail Mary or Fail Mary pass, got torched the entire game by Amon-Ra St. Brown. But the biggest problem that I would have in this game, unfortunately, was toward the end of the first half. I don't know if you saw this play, Ken. Rookie receiver, Lions rookie receiver Isaac Tesla had another phenomenal one-handed grab, inside the 10-yard line. Okay. Now, the problem was he was tackled inbounds, I should say. And Tyreek Stevenson, who got torched on that play, touched him. So that should be inbounds, which means the clock continues to run. And then the Lions try to get to the line, and they failed to spike the ball, at least to stop the clock. It was 0-0. So at least the Bears were down 21-14. Would they get the ball to start the second half? They still had a chance. But however, the officials,
they made a mistake.
They made a terrible mistake, called that he was out of bounds, and then they gave him a first down at the Bears 4, and then 6-yard line. 6 seconds. That was more than enough time to give Goff to hit St. Brown, who was again covered by Tyreek Stevenson, who was again torched consistently all day.
Torched all day.
28-14, pretty much game over, unfortunately, because the second half was just completely bad. The Bears folded like a cheap chair, outscored 24-7. But the problem, once again, the defense was bad, and then the offense regressed badly, largely due to the fact that offensive line outside of Joe Thuney committed such a bad penalties. Holding, full start, face mask, just completely melted down. and continuously put themselves in a 1st and long, 2nd and 15 and 20. There was one time 2nd and 32 and 3rd and long 15, 20. How the hell are you going to, recover from such horrendous mistakes? And, they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. And unfortunately, Williams, some of the throws he made, unfortunately, the passes were dropped by Rome Odunze, Oz Zacchaeus, Luther Burden. There were some of the passes that was, either thrown low or they were just simply dropped. Unfortunately, you're not going to get any help, out of this. And again, like I said, Williams was the least of the problems. Again, the defense and offense just really, really played poorly. And I just put out an article that will be posted on beargoggleson.com. I believe this is a truly a bad reflection on the general manager, Ryan Poles, who put together this roster in 3 years. Basically, the team is 15 and 36 in his 3 years. Somehow he got a contract extension, which is a bigger head scratcher now that the Bears are 0-2. They were outscored again in the the fourth quarter as well as the entire game today. So they lost 27-24. They lost 52-21. So the Bears have been outscored already, 27 plus 52. So that's 79 points versus where they scored 24 plus 21. So they were outscored. They have been already outscored 45-79. That is a worst points differential already in first 2 weeks. The last time the Bears gave up 50 plus points was back in 2014 when they gave up 50 points to back-to-back to New England and Green Bay in 2014. That was when Mark Trestman was the head coach, and he was promptly fired after, his second year. Of course, this is not something that will happen under Ben Johnson because this is his first year, but I'm really, really worried that the talent deficiency is so significant right now that this team is going to suffer a lot more losing, kind of like, when Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson was in their first 2 years with the Detroit Lions. They were, I believe, 13-1 in their first year. They got off to a really slow start in the second year before they picked it up and finished with a 9-8 record. And then the last 2 years, of course, they went to the playoffs, winning 12 and 15 games in the last two seasons.
Right.
I'm afraid we're in that same trajectory. The talent deficiencies on both sides of the ball are just so significant. And I knew that this was going to be the year where, Ben Johnson and his staff will have to kind of evaluate the roster and maybe mold the team to their image and their fits. But it feels like it's just such a significant gap that, it's a poor reflection on the Bears front office. Ben Johnson's going to take his lumps, and how much of a patience does many Bears fans have the rest of the season, because it's not going to get easy. Next week it's the Fox game of the week against the Dallas Cowboys on national television. It's going to be a tough game, and they have no time to really pity themselves or wallow in their
right
sorrow. They got to really pick it up and get their shit together, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can see what Mina Kimes said on Blue Sky, that Jared Goff had enough time on play action passes to check his email and send a few texts. I'm watching right now the touchdown montage, and they're showing a lot of the Detroit scores in the second half, Steven. Really poor coverage by, especially in the second half, by the Bears. A lot of those passes that Jared Goff threw, his receivers were way ahead. I don't know wide open, 2 steps ahead. It's as if like the Bears just gave up after that touchdown in the right before halftime. and again, my Browns weren't doing much better in regards to their effort as well, Steven. So, both of our teams aren't giving us much hope and optimism as we go into week 3, which will be, I think, again, all the teams will be in action before their very first bye coming up very soon. But anyway, not coming again. Really poor efforts by both of our teams, and really giving us a sour taste in our mouths before we come on the air today.
It really did. The Lions really run up the score. It's fine. I understand. Ben Johnson played for Dan Campbell and probably got the aggressiveness from watching Dan Campbell, and certainly they've had largely successful when it comes to going forward on fourth downs and running up the score. It's understandable. They wanted to send a message to Ben Johnson. I know a lot of fans here in Detroit, where I live, we're not happy about him leaving to go to Chicago to take the job within the division. But what are you going to do? You have an opportunity. A lot of coaches, a lot of assistants wants to become a head coach. Now, if will they succeed or not? That still is to be determined. Ben Johnson is may have been an offensive genius with the Detroit Lions, and again, Detroit, their success wasn't overnight. It took them It took them first 1.5, 2 years to finally have the foundation in place, and then that's when they took off. I don't know if the Chicago Bears will have such luxury with the roster that they have, but something has to really, really change moving forward. I think there are a lot of guys, unfortunately, who showed themselves for who they are. This is a team that still not only lacks talent, but from an effort perspective, it was pathetic. They were undisciplined, and they just didn't show enough character. They were very, very weak mentally, especially after the Isaac Tesla fiasco toward the end of the first half. If you really, really care, man, you should be able to get yourself motivated and then out there and perform in the second half. And again, like I said, the Bears just folded like a cheap chair. They were just getting blown out offensively and defensively, even in the second half as well. So, yeah, Ben Johnson era is off to a terrible start, and it's not going to get any easy. Ben Johnson is a very brave man, a brash man. He talks big. Now that he's a head coach, he better have some answers for what happened in the first 2 weeks, because it wasn't pretty the first 2 weeks, and it won't get any easier for him and his coaching staff moving forward. All right, let's look at the other games, Ken. This just ended. Eagles, Chiefs, Super Bowl rematch in Kansas City. The Chiefs are also now 0-2, following a 20-17 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. This wasn't at least like a Super Bowl type of beatdown, but it seems as though, I know a lot of people finally thought that this is the year that the Chiefs were, going to their Chiefs reign was coming to an end, and so far for the naysayers right now, their dreams have become a reality now that they're 0-2. Their game against the Chargers in Brazil, they looked a little bit off. I like to think that it has nothing to do with the the travel or the jet lag and all that other stuff. But now that they had plenty of time to get back and play here in their home stadium, and I did notice some empty seats out there in the Arrowhead stadium out there. I'm not counting out the Chiefs yet, but starting out 0-2, it does seem like, though, it is starting to become the beginning of the end of Chiefs' reign in the AFC, and it's pretty much up for grabs right now.
I'm not ready to declare them dead yet, Steven. They are the Chiefs. Andy Reid is an excellent coach. I don't think if you're 0-2 right now, I don't think he's lost it or of anything. Of course, Travis Kelce did have a chance to catch a tying touchdown, which he dropped, which ended up being an interception, which is a big killer. I do think that they had a chance to do well against the Chargers. They didn't play that well, but I will say that don't count out the Chiefs. I think that at the end they'll still get to the playoffs. They'll still be able. I mean, I know the Chargers are going to be very formidable. Jim Harbaugh has them playing the way they want to. And they'll be taking on the Raiders tomorrow night in the late game in the Monday night doubleheader tomorrow night in Las Vegas. So we'll see if they can get to 2-0 and make a statement against the Raiders, who are always in a state of flux, who are always having trouble. So we'll see how they do tomorrow night. But and of course, I just feel, Steven, that the Chiefs at the end will win the division. They'll still win that division. They'll probably get 10 wins, enough to win the division. They'll get to the playoffs, maybe the second round, and maybe not. I mean, with Buffalo right now playing so well right now, with a big win, a big emotional win last Sunday night, and of course beating up the Jets today, they'll probably be. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about this later on. But Joe Burrow got hurt today in the game earlier today. We'll talk about that coming up. But I think right now that Kansas City is still a team that's still going to make the playoffs, but they'll probably won't get to the AFC Championship like they have so many years, and they've been every year for like the last 6 years. But I don't think they're going to get there this season, Steven. But I'm not ready to write off the Chiefs yet because it's Patrick Mahomes. Granted, Travis Kelce has lost a step, but Andy Reid is still a great coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's won multiple Super Bowls. I don't count him out, and I think he's a guy. I think he'll figure it out. He'll figure it out, and never write off the Kansas City Chiefs until they're truly dead, and I don't think they're truly dead yet.
Mm-hmm. While the Chiefs kind of stumbling and try to regroup themselves, the Bills are off to a 2-0 start. They barely squeaked by the Ravens in a thriller last Sunday against the Ravens. And then today they had a little bit more of an easier time against the New York Jets, of course. The Bills look sharp, 2-0, and they have the leg up on the AFC race right now. Obviously, they have a game advantage over the Ravens now in a head-to-head matchup. I do believe that it's the Bills and the Ravens that they're right now clearly above the Chiefs in the race for all the AFC to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Very curious to see how the Bills can continue to operate in such high level under Josh Allen. This has to be their year. With the Chiefs losing again tonight, I think the confidence in the Bills and their fans are probably starting to skyrocket right now. I do feel that at the start of the season, I picked the Bills to get out of the AFC, and right now the Bills are in cruise control in the AFC right now after just 2 weeks. The other games that really caught my attention was the Giants and the Cowboys earlier. That went to overtime, and I got to tell you, it was a seesaw game back and forth. Very exciting game. Neither team played much of a defense, unfortunately. I know people were talking about Russell Wilson being done after, last week, and talked about Jackson Dart. He almost led them to an improbable comeback, but only for the Cowboys to, kick a 64-yard field goal to tie the game. The Giants still had a chance in the OT, but in their last possession, Russell Wilson threw an unacceptable
Really
interception.
bad pick, very bad pick.
2 bad picks. I don't know if it was expecting Malik Neighbors to run there, or maybe somebody has to be accountable for not being on the same page communication wise. I know Neighbors has been very, very vocal, even dating back to last year, about not getting the ball, etc., etc. Unfortunately, I don't think Russell Wilson will get benched at least for another week, but
Oh, he's fine. He's
at
after his performance this
least
week.
he's fine. Yes. But losing 40-37 to the Dallas Cowboys when they could have won this game probably makes a lot of Giants fans feel sick to their stomach because of that poor interception that completely changed the outcome of the ball game for the New York Giants. And the Cowboys are now 1-1 moving forward. So any other games, anything else that stood out to you, even from week 1 or even this week? This week?
I have to say, let me see what else. From the 1:00 games, the Patriots defeated the Miami Dolphins are in trouble, Steven. I mean, you're 0-2.
Right.
Mike McDaniel, I think he's got to be he's on the hot seat to be one of the first coaches fired. Tua Tagovailoa just didn't look very good. I mean, they were leading late in that game. They had a punt return that was returned for a touchdown, but then they gave it right back with a kickoff return. And then the Patriots had a field goal late to seal the game for a 33-27 win over the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins looked bad last week in their first game, and now they're 0-2. Here's a team which was I don't think had a lot of hope because when you have Buffalo in your division, it's not. But at least they were thought maybe they could finish second, as the Patriots are still rebuilding under Mike Vrabel, and the Jets are just pathetic. So the Miami Dolphins had a little bit of hope, but when you play like this and not have a good offense and have no effort, I gotta have a feeling that Mike McDaniel is going to be on the hot seat and maybe want to be if they don't improve, they have to be consider him as one of the first coaches to go in the season, maybe fired in season. Not this early, but probably if they continue to have this type of effort. Also, too, I mean, we had 9 early games. Also, the second game, very interesting finishes. Indianapolis and Denver. Denver leading late. Indianapolis had a really bad coaching at the end. Daniel Jones, however, looks like really legitimate, by the way. The Giants.
He is this year's Sam Darnold, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great game against Denver, but Indianapolis was driving for a winning field goal late, and then they kicked it and they missed it. But then Denver was called for touching the center, a 15-yard penalty, which is an untimed down, which allowed Indianapolis to kick a winning field goal. Very inexplicably how that happened. So now Indianapolis is 2-0 for the first time since the Peyton Manning era, Stephen. So Indianapolis has a lot of and they may have found their quarterback. I mean, they had the Anthony Richardson situation. They had Andrew Luck, who inexplicably retired, of course, a few years, almost 10 years ago, Stephen. But now, believe it or not, Daniel Jones looks legitimate. And if he continues to perform this way, the Giants have got to regret letting him go for a bag of balls, basically. So, and of course, he didn't show this with the Giants, but now he seems like the game has slowed down for him, and he's making clutch passes left and right. So Daniel Jones with the Indianapolis Colts, he may have found a second home, Stephen. And besides from that Philadelphia, Kansas City game and the earlier games, that's about it. But I have to think
that's about it.
Yeah, I'd have to think that we've got Atlanta and Minnesota tonight. We also have 2 games tomorrow night, Monday night doubleheader. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think for next week, Stephen, we have to see if these 2-0 teams are legitimate. You know, also too, the Green Bay Packers,
Yeah.
they look really good. They really go. I mean, now that they have Micah Parsons, Jordan Love doesn't have to do everything like like he tried to put everything doing too much last season. He seems to, he just manage the game, make your short passes, don't make a mistake, hand the ball off when you have to. And right now, the Green Bay Packers at 2-0 look really good. But as we all know, Steven, not every 2-0 team goes to the Super Bowl. Not every 0-2 team is out of the playoffs. So we have to see week 3, week 4. We got to see what's coming up. But Green Bay right now looks like a really good team out of your division right now. And the Buffalo Bills, we have to see what type of effort they give. And then can the Chicago Bears bounce back against Dallas, which is a team we have no idea. I mean, they're a 1-1 team right now, Steven, but we don't know what team we're going to see next week. So those are my questions as we go into week 3 next week.
Let's look at the college football. I believe it's week 3 now. Sorry about that. I almost put the week 3, week 2 instead. Sorry about that.
Right.
Arch Manning continues to struggle right now. He has not looked good at all. He threw he had another poor performance again this week, and it's becoming really, really more and more difficult to, stand up or give Arch Manning a pass with his poor performance. Even Paul Feinbaum, who was probably the biggest cheerleader of Arch Manning out there, finally decided to give up on him too. It seems as though, I don't know if it's just maybe Manning is either hurt or his mechanics has been completely altered under Steve Sarkisian. It's really, really shocking to see him struggle with the likes of San Jose States and the lower Power 5 schools or Division 1A programs or whatnot, and then he looks this bad. And now that the meat of the schedule happens with the SEC, where you face the likes of Oklahoma, Alabama, Auburn, Florida of the worlds, or even Tennessee. I don't know if they have it on their schedule, but you get the idea how difficult SEC is right now. Mm-hmm. It really does not give many fans, any hope that Arch Manning is going to get better anytime soon once the SEC schedule starts right now. Do you still feel optimistic about Arch, or do you feel like this is only going to go downhill pretty much?
Well, he's got to find a way. Right now, he looks lost out there, Steven. The highlights I saw. Of course, I give Ohio State a pass because, first of all, you're going against Ohio State your very first week. That's a very tough defense. Again, they're the defending national champions, Steven. So if you're gonna start your first game, basically your first major game against the defending national champions, I mean, I kind of give him a pass. But the last 2 weeks against competition, which weaker competition, and teams that you should be able to show us what you're made of. Yeah. I think there's too much pressure. I think the pressure's getting to him, and I still think that he still has a chance to show what he can do. But 3 seasons in and a 12-game season, Steven, there's not much time. So they've got to pull it around. They got to pull this around. He's got to pull it around pretty quickly. Otherwise, he's going to find himself on the bench in week 6, and that's not where you want to be, especially if you're trying to make a pitch to be in the pros and try to get to the next level. You got to show something, and of course, your name. There's high expectations. You got Archie, you have Peyton, you have Eli, 3 great players already ahead of him. And of course, when he was thought to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, and also thought to be a number 1 pick, projected to be a number 1 pick after this season, he hasn't shown it yet. But again, I think it might be the pressure might be getting to him, and I empathize with that because you have to live up. You have high expectations, and the only place right now for him is to go down. It's not like Shadur Sanders coming out of the HBCU, and surprising the hell out of everybody when he got to Colorado. So it's a whole different situation, and he's got to. He has a big name. It's like the royal family. The Manning is the royal family of football, Stephen, and he's got a high expectations to live up to, and unfortunately, he hasn't lived up to them yet. But he's running out of time. He's got it's six. Like I mentioned, it's not like the NFL season, which is 17 games. You still have some time to turn things around. You've got 12 games in the regular season games here, or 13 in some cases. But he's got it's not like he's playing for a Mountain West team where he can like be buried. He's playing for Texas, which is a high profile team in a high profile conference, which has a huge contract on ESPN. So every game is magnified. So that, unfortunately for him, he's got to find a way to figure it out, and I hope he does. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the late games, Notre Dame lose to Texas A&M at home. Texas A&M avenging their loss to Notre Dame last year. Notre Dame used that game to spring themselves into a playoff appearance last year. This year, though, Notre Dame is already at 0-2. They lost to Miami on the
week one. Yep.
Week one, Labor Day weekend, unfortunately. And now they're 0-2. They're not mathematically eliminated by any stretch of the imaginations, but there are some still tough games left on their schedule. So Notre Dame cannot afford to lose any more games. They literally have to win the rest of the game.
They got to run the table.
And then run the table, and then hope that some of the teams that's ahead of them, way ahead of them, to kind of stumble, which is nearly impossible thing.
They're still ranked in the top 25 after today. Even at 0-2, they're still ranked in the top 25. So they still have that because they're a brand name. They still have that. But yet last night, it's a game they should have won. They had a chance to make a play, but of course there was a holding call that wasn't called at the end, right when Texas A&M scored their winning touchdown. Actually, wasn't the winning touchdown. They tied the game because Notre Dame missed an extra point on a go-ahead score. This was a great game. It was on NBC.
It was, yes.
They went back and forth. Notre Dame, I thought, was going to win this game, but then they allowed Texas A&M to go all the way down to score. They scored on a fourth and goal play, and they finally managed to get the game and get the extra point. But there was a holding call that wasn't called on the touchdown pass. There was it was a mugging by the center on the defensive end. That wasn't called, but sometimes you're not going to get those calls, especially at the end of the game. They're not going to make a call like that. So controversial call, Stephen. Texas A&M wins. It's a big win for them. It's the first time they've beaten a top-ranked team in a long time. And I give them credit for going to Notre Dame Stadium. It's a hostile environment. We all know that. And NBC, which is broadcast all of their home games. Big win for Texas A&M. Bad loss for Notre Dame. You can kind of forgive the Miami loss because they're playing on the road. Miami had something to prove. And, of course, they also beat the South Florida yesterday in a big, huge in a trampled South Florida, which South Florida is hoping to use that game as a springboard, but instead they lost. They got slaughtered by the Hurricanes. But Notre Dame, as you mentioned, now 0-2. There's not too many quality teams on their schedule right now for the next 10 games, but they have to win out in order for them to get to the of course, they lost to Northern Illinois last season. Everyone thought that was going to get them out of the playoffs, and they got to the playoffs. They got to the semifinals. So we'll see how they do, Stephen. I still think that right now, for them 0-2, they've got 10 games. If they win out, I still think we'll forget about these two losses that they had this earlier on because they'll get to the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe that Notre Dame is still mathematically alive, but the after last night's loss to Texas A&M, I think that the obstacles for them, just got really, really, really higher. So they cannot afford to suffer any more mishaps, whether it's on offense or defense. Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult stretch. Difficult for Notre Dame to get back into the playoffs moving forward. Let's see. The other thing that really stood out, of course, this happened this morning. I think it's probably something that was not really difficult to see from happening. UCLA and Virginia Tech both fired their head coaches this morning amidst all the attention being paid to the NFL. UCLA fired Deshaun Foster, who was their former star player. Virginia Tech fired Brent Pye. Both teams were 0-3 and not looking very competitive at all. It kind of feels, with the NIL and all the conference realignment getting lost in all of this. UCLA and Virginia Tech, were once a very, very proud and prominent programs. UCLA under Terry Donahue, of course. Virginia Tech, of course, with Frank Beamer, with Michael Vick, were at the height of their, college football power. They went to the play, in the championship game 1 year with Michael Vick, and they lost to Florida State back in '99, I believe. It feels as though we saw there was a photo on Twitter about UCLA playing in the Rose Bowl, and I don't know if you saw this, in a very, very empty stadium where it looked like it was about. Of course, that game, that's the UCLA getting blown out by Utah in their opening game. And then yesterday, it was New Mexico, which I believe they paid a significant amount of money to kind of get themselves ready for the conference game and, build confidence and beat an easy team in the Mountain West. I believe this was New Mexico, right?
Yeah, it was New Mexico, and you can see Reddit the Reddit CFB X account jokingly said UCLA reportedly exploring a move to the Big Sky Conference, and then you see Sky Conference applying no thank you. So yeah, it's jokingly it was kind of funny, but you got to see that unfortunately, Steven, UCLA has fallen fallen far. It used to be they were a perennial power in the Pac-10, Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12, but they've fallen on hard times now, Steven. There's that picture you showed there. Also, too, I think that was from Ben Koo, actually, believe it or not. Ben Koo showed that, saying that, first of all, student. Ben Koo also showed that picture, but students aren't coming to the games. It's far away from the campus. They're the Rose Bowl is in Pasadena,
right?
And it's far away from Los Angeles. It's just not interesting to attract. And right now, if you're not a winner, you're not going to get a lot of people interested in your games. So I feel really bad for them. I just see that right now, as you mentioned, UCLA is just really, really in a hard times, and they're in the Big Ten. They made this move with USC. Both teams are trying to adjust. Although USC won their game against Purdue yesterday, which is a big win for them. But UCLA still has to get. I mean, this is a move that wasn't good for them. They had to make the move with USC because they need that Los Angeles rival. But they're better suited in the Pac-12. I really felt bad that the Pac-12 was gone, Steven. I missed that.
Yeah, me too.
But for them to go to the Big Ten, there's some growing pain. It's like Boston College going to the ACC. That wasn't a good move for them. And although they're getting a little bit better adjusted now, you lose your identity. And I think UCLA is trying to find its identity, and it's going to take a while for them because they get lost in the Big Ten. It's a traditionally Midwestern conference. You're making a lot of these trips to the Midwest and the East Coast. It's not like your traditional rivals when you're playing Arizona State, They still have Oregon and Washington with them, but still not the same. It's not the same when you say a Big Ten matchup between USC and UCLA. It's going to take them a long time to adjust, and it's really sad to see this too, Stephen, because this is a program that's been long proud. And Virginia Tech, the same thing. Virginia Tech, as you mentioned, at one time it was a national conference. It's looking to get to every year. It seemed to be competing for the national championship, but right now,
top 10 contender, of course.
Yeah, it's really been a hard time for them, and of course, the tragedy of Virginia Tech too. For the shooting almost 10 years ago, Stephen, but really hate to see that these are two proud schools. You want to see them do well. You want to see them continue to do well, but in this day of NIL and the transfer portal, it's really tough. And these are two schools will have to find a way to adjust. And once they do get that, and once they're able to, Stephen, I think they'll be able to get there. But right now, it's trying to find yourself in this new age of college sports, and they've yet to do it. And it may take them a while, and unfortunately, and this is the result of when you see them get to have to fire their coaches after 2 weeks. It's really sad.
Yeah. As I said earlier, the NIL and the conference realignment, taking money and, leave your conference, which, Pac-12, Pac-10 back in my days were very, very successful conferences. And yet, you take you take money, and in a trade-off, like you said earlier, you lost your identity. And you have to travel a lot more now, especially if you're UCLA, again, in the heavily Midwest conference when they go on the road, of course. And then for Virginia Tech, they're stuck in a ACC conference that is still very much winnable, but you're struggling to compete. You lost to Old Dominion, which is a 1AA school, I believe. You paid a large sum of money to, hopefully beat them up and get ready for the ACC schedule. And instead you got, waxed, and now your head coach is fired. And, things are, not looking good for these once proud programs. You feel like, money and money's worth over, the tradition and camaraderie. But if you look at that picture right there, Ken, like you said, it's Pasadena. You're not in Westwood where UCLA campus is located. Matt Leinart, ironically, the USC legend, said that they need to make a stadium change or build a stadium in Los Angeles or in campus. Maybe like make it 40,000 where fans can, be accessible and be proud of attending. It's kind of like, what the, schools like Northwestern is doing. They got rid of the old Ryan Field, and the this year and last year, they're playing in a high school stadium type environment, and they're almost ready to complete their building and hopefully build in a 40,000 in-campus stadium. Something like that needs to be made for schools like UCLA, especially with the talent that they can attract in being in Southern California. They should be more competitive and more relevant. So
Right.
Hopefully this is a turning point for their football program, and that maybe this is where UCLA get back into winning roots, and maybe they will probably start thinking about building a stadium that's in Los Angeles or somewhere much more closer, and half of the size of Rose Bowl, and then attract more strong support from not just from the alumni, but the students who are, the backbone of college football, college sports, because they want to be attached to a winning program in any sport, and they want to feel the connections. And right now, I think there's a significant disconnections for these two, once proud programs. They took the easy money in exchange for losing their long-time identity.
Yeah,
So
it's absolutely true, and it's very sad to see, because these are two proud programs, and like I said, they, in this day of NIL and in the transfer portal, they got to figure it out. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind. And like you mentioned. Maybe they, jokingly, the Big Sky said they didn't want him, but in this day and age in which the rich get richer, and if you're too small, you're going to get eaten by the rich. The Big Ten could say, "Hey, look, you're not pulling your weight. We want a stronger conference, a stronger team." They could. I don't see it happening yet, but I could see it maybe down the line, maybe even less than 5 years, where the Big Ten says, "Hey, UCLA, you're just being dead weight. We may have to cut and fish bait, cut bait, with you, and you don't want to see that happen, especially to a school like UCLA, which was hoping that they would be getting a lot more out of the relationship with the Big Ten than they're currently getting."
Right. I want to end the college football talk on this note here. There were some controversy involving the one of the AP voters who openly admitted Haley Sawyer of SoCal News Group for making an embarrassing mistake for their Week 3 ballot, which she covers Trojans. I don't think she mentioned anything about with her vote. This was actually the week when Florida got upset by South Florida, University of South Florida, the Bulls in Tampa Bay. And then, yes, she still had Florida at number 14. Now, it just, they lost and they actually moved up from 16 to 14 in her ballot. And, it's just a real a bad look on those who vote AP, and her response was, just really shocking. I'm going to play a clip here about her response to people criticizing her AP poll right here. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. I think I might have been playing a wrong clip here. Let me see if this one has the clip here. I apologize. Let me share this one. I think I made a terrible mistake of not putting the right one. Her explanation here.
Yeah,
let me see.
We didn't hear it anyway, Steve. We didn't hear the clip anyway.
Okay, let's try this one. Do you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so this is the one that I'm going to play here.
But as far as what my votes are and what my process is, I wake up early in the morning after covering a game late in the night before. Don't want to go too much into my progress or process or logic, but I will say I appreciate everybody's interaction on social media and all of your feedback. There's tons of people that vote on the AP poll, and it's not a perfect system, but at the end of the day, no matter who you pick, it does even out because there's so many people who vote. And like I said, it's really fun for discussion. It doesn't probably matter in the end, but I'm glad that people are having a really good time with it.
Okay, so I understand why the fans are upset about this. I mean, her explanation or lack thereof, she didn't even explain about her reasoning at all. And Ken, I know we may have touched this before about is having an early season poll means anything. I had this conversation, I believe, with college football writer Shehan Jayaraja from CBS Sports, and the relevance of it. And people like her, Haley Sawyer, offer basically no explanation behind her logic on moving up Florida to 14th after they were upset by South Florida, gives a wrong impression about anybody else who voted in AP. And it's maybe, with Texas getting so much hype and, with Arch Manning struggling and Texas looking just downright terrible and all of that, maybe it's understandable why people say, why the hell do we even have an AP poll or voting for a college football when no one has even played a single game yet?
Yeah, I think first of all, we shouldn't be having a poll this early. We shouldn't have polls until I think late October, Stephen, because Texas was ranked number 1 or preseason poll. Why?
Right.
There's not a preseason for college football. They don't play preseason games, obviously for good reason. They shouldn't. But that's, first of all, that's one thing. Second of all, I don't think I really don't care what she said. I really don't. I know Pat Forty said that she should lose her vote. There's some people got very angry over it. It's a week 3 poll. I mean, she was actually eventually was proven right when South Florida lost big time to Miami yesterday. So, but I understand some people thinking that Florida lost to South Florida. South Florida should have moved up a bit. I understand that, but you know what? At the end of the day, the SEC has a brand name. They're not going to move. And we saw yesterday too, in today's poll, that Notre Dame is still ranked even though they're 0-2. So again, there's a disconnect there between writers and the AP poll and the coaches and the USA Today poll. I just don't think, I don't think it's really important, these polls. I know that television likes to use these rankings to sell a game, like yesterday between Texas A&M and Notre Dame, 2 ranked teams. But again, what is the rankings based upon, Stephen? So I really am not going to criticize her for making a vote for which, okay, yes, her explanation was kind of misinformed and kind of tone deaf, but I'm not going to, especially if this were like a week 10 poll when we're trying to figure out the rankings for the college football playoffs, you made that type of vote, then I'd be a little bit more angry. But right now, it's a week 3 poll. I really don't care. It's let her vote however she wants to. If Pat Forty wants to get angry, if the AP wants to take away her vote, let them. But to be honest with you, these polls mean nothing at this week, this early in the season.
Okay. All right, let's kind of wrap up our show. Yesterday, there was a huge boxing match yesterday, now on Netflix.
Yes.
Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford for all their belts. Well, mostly, Alvarez's middleweight title, I believe. Terence Crawford moved up 2 weight classes and put on an excellent show. It was a very close fight from what I heard. I didn't see much of it. I saw much of it, some highlights online, that I could find. It looked like Terence Crawford closed the deal, maybe winning the last 3 out of the 4 rounds or so over Canelo Alvarez. And
I think he won 8 rounds, Stephen, of the 12 rounds. Alvarez didn't let his hands go. He looked old. He looked like all of his 35 years in boxing. 35 is old, Stephen. I know that 35 is, in a lot of athletics, you can play 35 and have a high level, but not in boxing. He had a lot of mileage. He didn't let his hands go. His punches were not hurting Crawford at all. So the 115 on the score on 2 scorecards were inexplicable to me. Of course, this is Vegas. We've seen strange things happen and at the end, I
thought this was in Riyadh.
No, this was in Vegas. This was in Allegiant Stadium in Paradise in Las Vegas.
Okay, my bad.
So I was watching this fight. I did not think that it was close at all. It should not have been a close. 2 scorecards had it at 115, 113. I don't know what fight they were watching, to be honest with you. I know Alvarez gets sneak points because he has a reputation and he's been good for boxing. But Terence Crawford, who has been gypped on a lot of fights, he was emotional last night because it might be his last fight. He was talking to Max Kellerman. The way he was talking about may have been his last fight. But here's a guy who should have gotten more shots than he deserved. He deserved to have more fights, but he didn't get them. But he took the opportunity to take this and to win this fight. He was in great shape. He was very sharp. He hurt Alvarez a couple of times in the middle rounds. I think he surprised Alvarez. I don't think Alvarez was expecting the punching power of Crawford because Crawford is also 35. But Crawford he just came in, Stephen. here's a guy, I've seen him before. He's deserved title shots. No one wants to give him title shots. He finally, Alvarez says, I'm going to give you one. This fight should have been 2 years ago, Steven. It would have been even bigger than what it was last night. But it was Netflix gave us a show last night. I'm glad it was on Netflix because he didn't have to pay extra for it. And Crawford showed that he could have been a great champion for the last 2 years had he been given the opportunity. But I thought that really it should have been on my scorecard. It was 118, 111. That's how big it was for me. And other people had 116, 116, 112. But I thought it was one-sided. I thought it was really a one-sided fight. It was Crawford. It wasn't close as what the 115, 113 scorecards, and it really shouldn't have been that close. But like I said, we've seen it in Vegas before, Steven, where strange judging has happened before, and we've seen it all happen before. So I'm just glad that the right person won.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the Netflix show and the people that was actually doing the pre-fight, post-fight? I know Max Kellerman was one of the guys that was on.
I am not a big Max Kellerman fan, but they had John Anik, who has called USC fights. This was run by the TKO group, which owns. This is the first boxing match for Zuffa Boxing, which is their first promotion. They're trying to do more. I think if they do this with Netflix, of course, they have a relationship with Netflix through the WWE. And of course, Paramount has all the UFC fights. So Paramount is trying to get a contract with Zuffa Boxing as well. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, John Anik did well. We had Max Kellerman there. I'm not a Max Kellerman fan, but I know there are some boxing fans who thought he was good on the fight. I just didn't think he was very good. Netflix. They also chose Mario Lopez, the former Saved by the Bell actor, who's now on Access Hollywood. I felt that was a rather strange choice, but he does have a podcast related to boxing, so he is a boxing fan. He did show some knowledge yesterday, but that would not have been my choice to do it. I think Kate Scott, who is the person who has hosted fights before for Netflix and for Showtime in the past, and of course does the UEFA Champions League on CBS. She knows boxing quite well. I wouldn't have minded her having to be host again, but overall, this production was done well. This is again the same people who do UFC and WWE, so their production values were rather high. The stream worked. There was nothing. I used the stream was. I had two different streams on Apple. I have two TVs, so I was having both of them on. I had one through the Netflix Ireland and another on the Netflix United States, and they work fine. So I think if they do this more often on Netflix, I think that boxing has a chance to get a little bit of a revival. They were talking, and unfortunately, there was the Saudi Arabia connection. That's why you thought it was in Riyadh, Stephen. When Michael Buffer mentioned the Saudi Arabia connection, and of course, there were people who were connected with Saudi Arabia in the ring for the introductions. They got booed heavily. So fans know when they're being sold out, and of course, WWE is doing WrestleMania. They announced on Friday, in conjunction with this event, that WrestleMania 43 is going to be held in Saudi Arabia in 2027. That got booed mercilessly when that announcement was made. So, I unfortunately think Saudi Arabia, with their sports washing, is going to continue to have this connection with TKO Group. But overall, it was a good boxing match. It was a good production. But, unfortunately, Saudi Arabia is involved with this. So, and I have a feeling we're going to see more boxing events connected with Saudi Arabia going forward.
Mm-hmm. All right. Finally, I think this was something that you have been you posted here. Give me your final word on the WAC championship.
Yeah, the World Athletics Championships have started this weekend in Tokyo. They're at the National Stadium in, I think it's Shinjuku. Is that the district where it is, Stephen?
The National Stadium in that area, right?
Yeah.
The former Olympic, the Olympic Stadium in
Right.
Tokyo back in 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the first time these athletes have been in Tokyo since 2021 through the Olympics. There was it was an empty stadium during COVID. During that time,
Yeah.
they're having it night now. The men's marathon is going through the streets of Tokyo right now. They had the 100-meter women's final earlier this morning. Actually, it was Sunday night Tokyo time. But again, they're talking about they're trying to hold some of these events at night when the humidity is not as bad. But Stephen, as you well know, and I know very well from my experience from when I went to Tokyo earlier this year, at night, even the humidity can be very, very bad. So the athletes, especially the 10,000 meter race that they were running earlier today, and the 1,500 meter race, the women's 1,500 meter final, and the men's 10,000 meter final, you could see the humidity getting to the racers today. So it's really tough on them. Right now, the men's marathon is running a tactical race. I think they're not. I think they're not even halfway, Stephen, in the 40-kilometer race, the 26-mile race. So, but the humidity is really tough. It's real. They were holding. The organizers of World Athletics were hoping that holding this championships in September would not be as bad as if they held it in July, which is when the Olympics were held 4 years ago in Tokyo. But the humidity is really still bad for them, and you know that, and you know the humidity as you're native of Japan, and I know it from my week that I spent there in July. It is very tough. It's very sticky. So I really hope the athletes are hydrated and have a chance to rest, especially with the heats that they're going to have in the humidity there.
Yeah, sometimes it's terrible. The organizers disregard the health of the athletes, and with the World Cup less than a year from now, given how hot it is in this country throughout the summer. It's going to be a real challenge, and it's time for the organizers to really put athletes' health and their well-being first, mentally and physically. Unfortunately, the money talks, and these things will likely to continue to happen as long as we have a global warming and the organizers who seems to put the lives and well-being of the athletes. They disregard, I should say, the well-being of the athletes, both mentally and physically, at the expense of a quick payday or big payouts from local governments and so forth. So it's unfortunate, Ken.
Yeah, it really is. And, I mean, Tokyo is a beautiful city. I want to go back there. I'm very impressed with how clean Tokyo is, as you well know. And, they're doing a lot of things to hopefully try and make it more tourist friendly, because Japan likes likes the yen that the like the tourists spend there. But I got to tell you, I know you want to hold major sporting events, and this is a major sporting event that's going to be going on for about 10 days in Tokyo. 8 days, basically. They're going to have 8 days, and they're going to run it. But running into hot and humidity is really tough. I don't know what the solution is, whether you try to build air-conditioned stadiums. But, the racers I've mentioned that 2 years ago, it was held in Hungary in the heat and humidity. And 3 years before that, it was held in Oregon, which was hot and humid as well. So you got to run these in the summertime. But I don't know what the solution is, Stephen. But as I mentioned, as you well know, Tokyo, the humidity really doesn't break until October. So, they were hoping to, and you don't want to run this in October for American audiences, because then it get lost. Right now it's getting lost in football, but it's tough through there. And I can see a couple of racers are dropping out because of the heat and humidity. They're trying to keep cool, but it's tough. It's tough out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, Ken, let's put a bow on our show for this week. We thank you for watching us on this Sunday night. 134 people joining us on this live stream. I got a loaded show tomorrow. I just wanted to give a quick word on our show tomorrow. we have so much to talk about when it comes to football. So first of all, tomorrow I have at 1 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow we have Anthony Russo, who has his own it's Bill Sparks, who we have a pleasure of talking to. He writes about the Browns, your Browns, as well as the NFL draft as well. We have him at 1 p.m. And then at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific, we have Adam Rank from the NFL Network, who is a noted Bears fan, joining me tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. This is not a joke. I will post it. Hopefully, Adam will be kind enough to retweet about the live stream tomorrow. And then tomorrow at 8:30, we have another special guest that will be joining us. This will be Anthony Russo tomorrow. Let's see. Tomorrow at Monday, since I'm off at work, 7-6 Central, Anthony Russo will be joining us to talk about, again, the college football and also the upcoming 2026 NFL draft. He is a draft analyst as well. We're really excited about tomorrow. At least I have one more day off before I go back to work on Tuesday. So hopefully, the pain and the angst from today's loss has worn out, and then at least I have more clear mind to talk about the Chicago Bears, the NFL, and also college football / draft. All in all, tomorrow, with 3 wonderful guests. So I will make sure to post or retweet about it again tomorrow or tonight. And hopefully all of you are kind enough to join us on this live stream. I understand it's Monday, so a lot of you might be at work or maybe at classroom. So hopefully you're able to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on X and watch it while, at work or at school.
Well, thank you so much, and again, that's great that you got these guests. They will also be going through, because they're connected to my socials. They will be put on my socials at Fangs Bites on X. If I'm available, if I see that, I'll also post it on Blue Sky as also threads. But thank you so much, Steven, for getting those guests. I appreciate keeping the channel active and getting a lot of those guests. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interaction, especially when you talk about the Bears, especially about a team which has such a great rabid fan base and deserves much better, Steven. So
same with your Browns too.
Yeah.
So.
And I certainly hope that you all are all join in and talk with and interact with the guests. And I certainly hope you have a lot of people watching tomorrow.
All right. Well, Ken, thanks for joining me again tonight on this live stream. Enjoy your week, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. 3 shows again. We'll post it on our X. And again, Ken and I will be back again next Sunday at 7. Maybe we might have to do it a little bit earlier, Ken, if you don't mind. We'll talk about it because the Bears and the Cowboys will be on Fox's America's Game of the Week, so it might get a little bit later, but we'll talk about it if you're available, maybe on an earlier schedule. So if we are going to do an earlier live stream, we'll definitely post it on our X, and we'll definitely let people know about it.
Absolutely, and like I said, coming up later in the month, we'll have the author James Podolowski, who will be talking about the partnership of John Madden and Pat Summerall. It was already featured on our awful announcing earlier this month, but look forward to that. We'll have a live interview with him. We'll talk to him about 30 minutes about the book and talk to them about their partnership and what made them so magical. We'll see that. The men's marathon just finished. They had 3 people going into the stadium in National Stadium. So just a very close finish in the heat and humidity in Tokyo. But Steven, good to see that going on there. But good talking with you again this week. Best of luck in your shows coming up tomorrow, and then we'll talk to you next week.
Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. And then Ken and I will be back again next Sunday. That's to be determined. So see you then. Enjoy the rest of the night, and enjoy the rest of the week. Till then, have a great night, everybody.